So this is the Ryobi P742 Bluetooth job site radio. Now some people may remember one of my earliest YouTube videos was of the Ryobi Toughtunes job site radio, which had a design very similar to the DeWalt in that it would also charge batteries, and it was kind of a boombox format with a pretty slick armored roll cage on it. And it was made to be a direct competitor to the DeWalt job site radios. If you saw a video later in that series, you notice that the electronics on that radio failed, and the Ryobi warranty station would not honor the warranty because I never did bother to save the original store receipt. Now these would normally have a warranty of 3 years, but if you don't save your store receipt, they void that. So even if the product had been on the market for less than 3 years, they void the warranty when you lose the store receipt. Go figure. So that had me going without a job site radio for a long time because I left the DeWalt stuff with a friend of mine at a survival retreat kind of place. And what I take on job sites is, for the most part nowadays, it's going to be Ryobi stuff. Especially after the big tool theft, I wanted to switch over to cheaper tools, cheaper stuff that still gets the job done well. And Ryobi has been serving that purpose admirably for the last couple years for me. So with that came the fact that we didn't have much music on the job site. I do use some DeWalt 20 volt stuff. They do have a Bluetooth job site radio. Ryobi, because they had numerous problems with their Toughtunes radio, had re-released their older style blue body radio, which had the same basic overall shape, and it's not very expensive, like 30 bucks. So a lot of people would do that just to have a job site radio that uses the same battery system. When you see these in the stores, you're going to think, oh, that's the same thing, they just colored it to match the newer tools, not realizing that this thing actually competes directly with the DeWalt again. It just kind of resembles the shape of the old style cheaper Ryobi radio, which a lot of people liked because it was dirt simple and reliable compared to their newer models. So it's kind of retro as far as Ryobi goes, but it's got new features which you should be aware of and make this a pretty slick item. Now, just like the older classic one that was a dark blue, it had the little fold-up antenna. Okay, kind of chintzy maybe, but it's all rubberized, rubber armored. This thing could take a spill. That's not really going to be a problem. There's no rubber armor on these, so they've done a little things to stay within their price point, $39 radio over at Home Depot. So we've got AM, FM. They've upgraded to an aux jack right here on the side. They've also upgraded to a Bluetooth. Now, the Bluetooth is pretty good, and that's what's going to allow you to use this with most of your smartphones. Now, depending on the software in your smartphone, the big bonus on this is that when your phone rings and you're on a job site with power tools and stuff going, you're going to hear it over the radio speaker. Now, one of the things I figured out with the Apple stuff that I've been using is that I still can't get it to go speakerphone mode. Now, I could get stuff that's Android to do that. It goes speakerphone mode where you can talk into your Android phone, but you'll be hearing the audio out of this. For some reason, the Apple that I was using with OS 6X was not doing that. So as soon as when your phone's ringing, it's going to ring through this. As soon as you answer that phone, then what's going to happen is it goes to the audio that's only on the phone. It's not like it turns it into a speakerphone, room-wide speakerphone. Some people may like that because that helps maintain a little bit of privacy in the conversation, such as, haggling a price with somebody on something, and you kind of want to be a little discreet about that with regards to the crew. So we've got really basic controls. We've got power, we've got mode, which is going to go between our AM, FM, aux, and Bluetooth. The clock display basically is for going through your system of setting a clock, which is a little tricky. It's about like setting a watch. Then we've got the presets for the stereo. So what happens is you can set your presets, and you can either scan with the radio or go +1 through to your presets. Not bad. So it's a little more complex than you might think at first because of the way it works with a small number of buttons. But then you start to realize, wait a minute, no, there is about 10 buttons on the face of this thing. It's going to use the standard Ryobi batteries, and this is actually a good thing that you could use your cheaper, smaller batteries that quite often come free with the tools, or even if you have any of the old NiCads sitting around. There is no power cord on this, and this was the case with the older Model 2 of their smaller radio. The Toughtunes boombox could charge batteries, it could charge any Ryobi battery that you could click into it. This one doesn't charge batteries, it's just a battery user. Now, it's one of the things that it will do though is it will charge USB stuff. So the USB plug, even though that doesn't really interface with the electronics, you can have a couple adapters here on cords and it will charge USB stuff. Now, one of the things people know is that if you have a smartphone that's transmitting USB, for example, you're streaming music from your smartphone by Bluetooth to the radio, it's going to drain that down because it's running that small transmitter. By plugging in the Bluetooth, you're not interfacing with the radio. You still need to use the the Bluetooth link, but you're going to get that stream of power from your Ryobi battery to your USB device. So if there's any USB power that you need to provide to other devices, GPS, smartphone, maybe rechargeable flashlights that use USB power, this can do that. Okay, so this is where you can take some of those devices indoors, you can recharge them, and that's where it can be a pretty good 18 volt to USB link if you have the means to, let's say, charge the 18 volt Ryobi batteries from a vehicle or a solar power or some other type of off-grid method. The other thing you do, especially if you have older iPhones laying around or older iPods that you just kind of marry to the device, you can just strap it on there and it stays. So depending on how you pick the device up, you can use that. And you'll notice that the smartphone or it's a larger attachment area. That way you could use, like, so let's say some of the larger Samsung Galaxies with it. And it's got the little bumper pad, and don't forget that kind of like Weebles wobble, but they don't fold down. This thing's going to be bottom heavy if you use one of the larger batteries. So if it gets knocked, it's not top heavy. So, well, there we could knock it over, right? But it's it's rubbered on the bottom. It's job site worthy stuff. I would show you the sound stuff, but apparently there's some copyright issues if I play like another thing's music through it. But I would tell you that the audio fidelity on these is decent. Okay, it's not wonderful, but it's decent, and it helps you pace work on a job because you can kind of tell how your playlist works on your music device or something like that, and it helps you pace things on the job. It will not work very well with too many two-way communication devices, but at least when your phone's ringing, it works that way. And as you get into more advanced versions of Android, things like that, I would expect this to eventually work as at least the speaker portion of the speakerphone for a Bluetooth-enabled device.